Thanks for joining us for another edition of Communication Steroids, the weekly podcast that shows you how to become a better public speaker, a more effective presenter, and a conscious and clear communicator. This is where you can find tips, tools, and techniques that you can put to use today. Here are your hosts of Communication Steroids, Tim Gonzo Gordon and Roger Pike.
Roger.
Tim.
Hi.
Hi.
Podcast time, dude.
It is for a fact, as a matter of fact.
Well, we got one of our comments in our blog here a little while back that said, and I like this, it says, you guys not only look like you know what you're talking about, but you have a heck of a good time doing this.
Well, you know, I can hardly believe that this is where I come to work every day.
It is, yeah.
Yes.
Well, not every day.
Well,
but,
no, not every day. But
you know, now and then.
Now and then. Often enough.
Showing up. Regularly. Yeah. Yes.
You know, most people don't have the kind of fun that we do at work. They just don't.
Yeah.
And we're blessed as a result.
Yeah, we are. You know, this isn't our full-time jobs, but we're looking to make it that. So, hey, you have an interesting topic, which actually came about as a course we're giving in public speaking this quarter.
It did, and one of the things it's a 12-week course, so it's really quite extensive in presentation skills.
A lot of stuff goes into that.
But in order to improve your presentation skills and in order to craft a good presentation, you need to know what the elements of the presentation are. And we've developed what I think is a very good way to craft a speech, to craft a presentation, and a good program to follow if that's what you're aiming to do.
So, what are we trying to do with this particular presentation?
Well, we call it the power presentation.
Okay.
And we say that there are three essential elements of the power presentation. The first is the destination, the second is the declaration, and the third is the organization. Most people only focus on that third element, how they're going to organize their speech.
The organization of the speech, which obviously is critical.
Yeah, it is, of course, and we'll talk about that. But we think there is a process to creating a powerful, impactful, clear presentation, and that you should follow that process in order to produce it. And
it really takes a lot of thinking about where you're coming from with all this. What's your goals of this? When you say declaration, that's a great word. We'll get to that. But you also talked about the destination.
That's the first thing you should think about is your destination. Where is it that you're trying to take these people? Where are you trying? What do you want them to take away in the end from your presentation?
So when they walk out the door,
goal?
What do they want in their knowledge, their box, their toolkit, whatever that you're going to give them?
So the first thing to do is decide what is your destination. And it's not a line in your speech. Your destination is not, the core line or the tag line or the impactful line. Your destination is a statement to yourself what it is that you intend to accomplish over the course of the 7 minutes to all day that you're giving your presentation for. What is it that you want to do?
So this if you go through this particular framework, you can use this for a short 6 or 8 minute speech as well as half-day seminar, full-day seminar, because the framework is the same.
The framework is the same.
The organization may be a little bit different, and the delivery certainly will be different, the execution, but the framework is key.
Yeah, and when I say destination, when I say that you need to have a goal, you need to have a purpose. I'm not saying that you need to write down a paragraph like a mission statement.
Right.
At the end of the reporting period, our company will have maximized customer contacts and minimized customer dissatisfaction by teaming up to that kind of.
You don't want that
gobbledygook.
No,
you don't. A destination should be specific. Every presentation,
you're fine. You're fine. I'm just backing up.
Every presentation needs a purpose. So thumbs up. It should be specific. The second thing is that it should be precise. That is to say, it should emphasize a single idea. A goal is not a whole series of things unless you're doing a 12-week seminar, and in which case each of the weeks has its own specific destination.
Sure.
And then it should be a single complete sentence.
Okay.
It should be a complete sentence because you're trying to establish an idea, and it should be a single sentence because you don't want to fly all over the world with this thing. You want a very specific, very accomplished goal.
And this is actually a homework assignment we're giving.
It is. We're asking people
this week.
We're teaching 2 classes. One of them for introduction to presentation, and the other is for advanced presenters. And this is a homework assignment we're giving to the advanced presenters to kind of deconstruct one of their presentations and fit it into the framework that we're trying to give
so
them.
that they can kind of see, why are we doing this presentation? We have this material, but let's really break it down and see how it fits into this framework, so it gets them to think about it in a more logical aspect. Probably.
Right, and your destination
Dynamic.
isn't because somebody's paying me to teach this class. I mean, your destination is a specific thing a specific set of things that you want your listeners, your end users, to take from that class.
Right.
Then once you have your destination, then you can write your declaration.
The declaration. Oh, I like the declaration, because declaration has a great sort of resonance in American history.
It does, doesn't it? It has a real positive, proactive feel as a word, doesn't it? Your
Yes.
declaration is a sentence in your speech. Again, a single sentence, and it is the core.
It's
of
still
your
not
speech.
your mission statement.
It is not a mission statement. Oh, for
This
the love
is
of God, it is not a mission statement.
It is the core of your speech.
Exactly. It's the fulcrum. It's the point. It's that statement of impact that's going to cause your audience to go, yeah, this is for me. I need to do this. And that's your declaration. For example, a declaration for what we're doing with you right now might be something, along the lines of, you can instantly add clarity and impact to your message if you understand the 3 key elements of the power presentation.
So that's your declaration for this
podcast.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, exactly. And by telling people they can add impact and clarity, you immediately give them a reason to listen. And that's your declaration, and it should be a line in your speech. And in fact, it should be how you kind of wrap up your introduction. The first part of your speech. Wrap up your introduction with that declaration and cause people to listen to the body of your speech. Then the third thing, of course, is organization.
Organization. There's so many different ways you can organize a speech, or a presentation, and that will. What this is probably, even though the other two are great, and those are fairly short. The organizational part of the assignment that we're giving really has to do with the length. If it's a 2-hour thing or an hour thing or a full day seminar, their organization is going to be different. So that we wanted them to explain to us how are they organizing their entire presentation from the introduction all the way to the last last word they say out of their mouth.
Right. I
mean, just a framework. We don't need the whole. I mean,
if we were to add to make this to take this and analogize it to cooking.
You keep verbalizing things.
I know, I do that all the time. I mean, synopsize, analogize. If I were to use a cooking analogy, for example, I'd say that your destination is the stove. It's the basis for what you want to do.
All right.
The declaration is the sizzle, and the organization is the steak.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I
thought the organization would be the how you're putting the whole meal together.
Oh my God! Some people and their literal and their literalization of things.
I don't actually literalize anything. If you want to get literal about it, but go ahead.
Oh my dear Lord! Everybody's heard the classic statement about organization. Tell them what you're going to tell them.
Rule of threes.
Tell them
what you told them. Right.
Exactly. And that's the basis, that's the basis for
and everything
any
flies
clear
from there, really. It does. Yeah.
It does. And we have a whole class module that we teach, for example, on introductions. Every speech needs introduction, body, conclusion. Introduction, tell them, body, tell them, or introduction, tell them what you're going to tell them.
Yeah.
Body, tell them.
Yeah.
Then in closing, tell them what you told them.
And it doesn't need to be that literal, but that's the setup, and again, the framework is what we like to call it.
Exactly. And Tim, you teach a whole module on introductions, how to create an introduction that has impact and flair.
How to create an arresting opening. Yes.
There you go. And tell us some of the techniques that you use.
When we get to that module, I'd be glad to.
Well,
no.
okay.
Ask a powerful question. Shock them with an interesting factoid or statistic. Do something unexpected. There's a lot of different ways. We actually have a top 10 list of ways to do that.
Yeah, and we don't want to get into that here because, again, we teach a whole module on it. But I did want to give people some of the
future
flavor.
podcast, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. I did want to give people some kind of a flavor by what we mean when we say have an introduction. An introduction should be short. An introduction is never half your speech. It's never even 10% of your speech. It should be short, but it should definitely give people a reason to listen. So be careful about that and make sure that you include an introduction. Don't just launch right into the body. I know a number of presenters, particularly in a business setting, who will dispense with the introduction. and say there are 3 key points I want to make in my analysis today. There are number 1, number 2, number 3, and it never works. So,
or there's a little small talk there for a couple of minutes, and next thing you know, okay, well, I better get started now. They just sort of ease their way into it like no one really wants to get involved, but I better be doing this. Okay, it's like almost by I'm resigning myself to the fact that I have to teach in this class today.
Well, one of the reasons that we want to talk about the process of creating a power presentation, the destination declaration, is because most people believe, I think, that the very first thing that you do when you sit down to prepare a presentation is write the introduction.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true. I mean, I look up on your wall. You have inspirational sayings on your wall.
Yes.
One of the inspirational sayings that I absolutely love is start now, begin anywhere.
Begin anywhere, yeah.
And I think that's true with presentations as well. Whatever is inspiring you at the moment
is where you're going to start.
Yeah. But one of the things that you should always do first is make that destination.
Yeah, what is this all about?
What is it all about?
And it could be just you don't even have to write that down as long as you know what it is going in. And sometimes it makes sense to write it down very precisely. And other times I just know what I'm going to do, so I need to start somewhere. It just depends on what you're doing.
Well, I used to do exactly that. I used to think that I needed an absolutely killer opening before I do anything else.
Yeah.
So I would sit down and agonize over the opening, and I would fight with it, and I'd spend hours and hours and hours and hours fighting.
And you
with
found
the
you got nothing done at all except maybe an opening.
Done. Yeah, and then what I started doing was I would do my destination, not my declaration. I would kind of put that off. I would do my destination, and then I would start organizing the speech. And somewhere in organizing that speech, the introduction wrote itself.
Well, that actually works in journalism school, and we're about to wrap up our podcast. But when I was back there in journalism school, they said, you got to have a good lead.
Yeah,
it's your introduction.
Yeah.
But they also said, write the story. The lead will come out of the story. Because so just start writing. Get all the facts in there. Get the most important and the second most important all the way down. And after you do that, you will find the lead, which really pulls people in.
One thing I do want to mention before we wrap it up, with regards to your organization, is if your declaration has an organizational pattern in it, follow it. In other words, if your declaration is that there are 3 key elements that will inspire your speech, that will make your speech memorable, it is declaration or destination, declaration, and organization. When you talk about them in that order. Destination, declaration, and organization. Your organizational pattern should follow the declaration, the organization, the declaration. Then in the conclusion, of course, tell them what you told them, and we've talked about conclusions before. Try and have 2 in case you need a second closing, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then repeat your declaration in your closing. Wrap it all up. Tell them what you told them.
Cool. That's the podcast.
From Communications.
We hope you got something out of this. I know I did. It was always fun to kind of chew the bones of these things, as it were. And I'm Tim Gordon.
And I'm Roger Pike.
And it's the podcast from CommunicationsSteroids.com.